My wife admitted to having a drunken one-night stand last week, and it has turned me into a robot. I, 32 male, have been married to my wife Kate, 30 female, for 4 years, together for 9. Our relationship has been amazing, loving and supportive. We have good communication, hardly ever argue, and our bedroom life has gone from strength to strength over the years. We discussed cheating in the past, and I was always clear that we would be over if it ever happened. Kate went home to visit her family last weekend, which was fairly normal. Before she left on the Friday night, we had a minor argument about keeping the house tidy, so our communication was limited on Saturday, but I knew she was going out to meet some friends at a bar. I trusted her 100%, so didn't think anything of it. Before I fell asleep, I texted her saying that I hope she had a nice night. When I woke up on Sunday morning, I had a missed call from Kate at 4 a.m., so I immediately called her to check if she was okay, but no answer. After a few hours, I tried again a few times, but still no answer. Around an hour later, I got a message saying she was fine and was driving back soon. Kate got home late afternoon and looked awful. She had clearly been crying, was not wearing any makeup, unusual for her, and looked like a shell of a person. I knew right away something was wrong, but she wouldn't let me hug her and would barely speak. I sat her down on the couch and made her some tea. I gently encouraged her to tell me what was wrong, and she burst into uncontrollable tears for at least 10 minutes while I was trying to comfort her. She then proceeded to tell me, stopping every few words, that she had slept with someone last night after the bar. At that moment, something in my brain broke. I can't describe it any other way. I immediately got up and jumped in my car and drove off. I went to a park and walked around it for about an hour. Kate was calling my phone constantly, and I turned it off. When I got home, I grabbed 2 suitcases from the garage and went to our bedroom. I threw some of Kate's clothes and shoes into them and left them by the front door. Kate was lying on the floor in the living room, curled up into a ball, sobbing. I called her best friend who lives nearby and told her that Kate needed a place to stay and a ride to her place, and that Kate could expunge everything to her later. I told Kate I was leaving for an hour and that her friend was coming to pick her up. She grabbed onto my legs trying to stop me from leaving. When I returned home again, Kate was gone, and so were the cases. On Monday, with a clearer head, I answered one of Kate's many calls and told her that I needed her to send me an email with as much details as possible of that night, and if she leaves anything out, there will be no hope of reconciliation. I received this email on Monday night, but still haven't opened it. Since then, everyone has been trying to contact me, but I have just been working, exercising and sleeping. One of her friends turned up at my house with an attitude demanding an explanation. I told her to speak to Kate and closed the door in her face. I have also been speaking to divorce lawyers, have moved money into separate accounts, and blocked Kate and all of her friends on everything. Everything I have done since I found out seems like I have been on autopilot. I don't feel angry, upset, or overly emotional, just numb. Kate posted a note through the door yesterday asking me to meet tomorrow, but I'm conflicted. Should I meet her? Will it change anything? Is there any point in trying to reconcile? Is it normal to feel like a robot, and how do I snap out of this? Edit. Just to add that when I came home the first time, Kate confirmed it was consensual. She was drunk but knew what she was doing. Comments. Sure. Comment 1. In marriage, people can do a lot of different things that can cause issues, but cheating is something that's pretty much a deal breaker. Don't cheat. It's just not worth it. Comment 2. This ended about as well as it could have. It's nice to see someone who knows themselves well enough to know when it's time to go. He probably wanted to be able to get over the betrayal, but just knew he couldn't. Update 1. I started by telling Kate that I would be recording the audio of the conversation, and she agreed. I then asked her to explain what happened and told her that I haven't read the email she sent. Kate said she had been at the bar with 2 friends I know and like both of them, and told me what she had to drink. I was surprised at how little she drank, because it was the same amount we would normally drink when going for dinner. A few glasses of wine and a cocktail. She admitted she was only slightly tipsy. One of her friends, Sarah, has a younger brother, Max, 27M, who came to pick them up around midnight. It's a running joke in their group that Max has had major crush on Kate since high school, and the 4 of them went to get some food, and Max then dropped each one off until it was just him and Kate. Kate said she didn't want him to drive the 20 minutes to her parents' place after working all day, so would just order an Uber from his apartment. She went into his apartment to order the Uber but couldn't get one. Max suggested she should crash in his bed, and he would take the sofa. He would then drop her off in the morning. Kate refused and continued to try to find an Uber. They were sitting on Max's bed and he kissed her. She kissed him back and they ended up having sex. After that, she broke down crying from guilt and Max took her home. She cried for another hour, then tried to call me to tell me what she had done. We had to stop a number of times because Kate kept breaking down and crying hysterically. She told me it was a huge mistake. She got caught up in the moment. It was terrible. She only loves me blah blah blah. After she was done, I told her that her story didn't make sense, but it didn't matter at this stage because I was done. This caused another breakdown. I told her I was going to continue with the divorce preparations, but for the next month we would be separated with no contact. I also told her that we would both remain faithful, would get a full STD panel, and she would tell our mutual friends and family what happened. If she sticks to these conditions, I would be willing to meet again to see if there was any way forward other than divorce. She enthusiastically agreed to this but made it clear that she did not expect me to stay faithful to her. I know many of you will criticize this decision, but I need to be sure that divorce is the right option after I have had time to process everything that has happened. I am still 99% sure that is where we are heading, but I need to be 100% certain. Update 2. A few things have happened in the last week, so I thought I would make an update post if anyone is interested. First of all, I'm not in robot mode anymore. I've been having bursts of intense feelings of anger and betrayal, but have been keeping busy with work and exercise. I don't work and exercise. My friends have also been great since they found out and have been dragging me out of the house to hang out. I decided to read the email and wish I hadn't. The story Kate told in the email was mostly the same, but there was no mention of going into Max's apartment to order an Uber. There were also pretty explicit details of what they did, for how long, and that they had apparently used a condom. I will never be able to forget this description. Many people who were originally criticizing me for kicking Kate out of the house have now apologized, but they can keep it. Kate's parents reached out to apologize and I spoke to them, because we had a good relationship before all of this. They begged me to try to work it out but said they understood if I decided to get divorced. I didn't commit to either option. Kate's other friend, that was there that night, contacted me to tell me her side of the story. It mostly matched up bar food home. She said Kate could stay over at her house, but she refused, saying she was driving home early the next morning. Max apparently insisted that he would take Kate home. The version of the story that she told didn't mention Kate trying to get an Uber, only that Max invited her in and she accepted. I asked her if she had ever suspected anything before, and she told me that about a year ago, she went to meet Kate for coffee, but found Max sitting with her when she arrived. Apparently Kate looked guilty, but when asked about it she said they just met by chance. Sarah, Max's sister, also reached out to me and I spoke to her too. She was angry with both Max and Kate and told me a similar story. Apparently her whole family are angry with Max and she had not spoken to Kate since she found out. She apologized on behalf of her idiot brother and said she had warned him to stay away from Kate since high school. She didn't think anything else had happened between them. I've had zero contact from Kate but heard that she was going to be moving into an Airbnb near our house. Apparently she is not coping well and called in sick from work a few times over the last few weeks. She does have support from the friend she is currently living with, and I asked her parents to keep an eye on her. Her parents came up to see her this past weekend. I went out with some friends at the weekend and ended up drunk at a bar. I was talking to a girl there who I probably could have gone home with, and I stopped myself because I wanted to keep my self-respect. Reading the email and hearing what they had done made me give up hope of repairing this, especially when I know she is not being truthful with me on other things, so who knows. I will be moving ahead with the divorce and might not even wait a month before telling Kate that this is my final decision. Update 3. The 3. I debated posting this update, but a lot of people seem to be invested in this mess, so here it is. Apologies in advance if this is Team I. Kate sent me an email last week asking to pick up some things she needed for work. My lawyer told me not to prevent her from having access to the house or her possessions, so I reluctantly agreed that she could come over on Thursday night when I would be at the gym. I told her to be out by 7:30, but when I got home at 8 she was still there. When I walked in, she had left a few work-related items next to the stairs, and she was chopping vegetables for dinner. She looked amazing with her hair and makeup done, wearing one of the dresses I like. The whole place had been tidied and cleaned. I calmly asked her to leave immediately, and she made her way to the door but stopped and asked if we could speak. I should have said no, but I eventually agreed. Indeed isn't Ole. The Choniga one. We sat down and had a conversation for around an hour which jumped from topic to topic. Again I told her I would record the audio and she agreed. I started by asking her if she had kept her side of the agreement we made the last time we spoke. I spoke. She said she had taken an STI test which was all negative. Mine was too, thankfully, and a pregnancy test which was negative. She hadn't been with anyone else and also told a few friends and family what happened, and many of them were angry and were not speaking to her. I asked a lot of questions that had been turning over in my mind for the last few weeks. She confirmed that her reason for going into Max's apartment, the Uber story, was BS, and she said he invited her in for a drink. And she agreed, knowing at some level that something was going to happen. She can't explain why she did this other than being selfish and enjoying the attention. She also confirmed that she had texted with Max a few times over the years, because he would shower her with compliments and make her feel good. He would always initiate, and she was apparently careful not to lead him on, and said she had never sent him explicit messages or pictures. Kate also told me that they had hooked up about 6 months before we got together but never had sex. She admitted that she was always a bit curious. Her story about being caught at the coffee shop was that Max had texted her asking what she was up to, and she had told him where she was. He then turned up. She swore this was the first time they had ever done anything since we had been together. She said there was nothing missing in our relationship, and she hates herself for ruining her perfect marriage and causing me so much pain. I told her that I still don't believe her story, and that there was no point in continuing the conversation. She calmly asked what she would need to do to make this right, offering up her phone, location sharing, not going out without me, etc. She had clearly been doing some research. I said that I had no plans to become her prison guard, especially when I would never get over the betrayal. Things then took an unexpected turn which caught me completely off guard. She asked me to turn off the audio recording because she had something private she wanted to discuss and didn't want other people hearing it. I refused and she reluctantly continued. She asked if I had been involved with anyone else sexually since all of this happened, making it clear she was fine with it. I told her no, and she said that I must be going crazy. We used to have sex almost daily, and started talking dirty about all of the things I could do with and to her. This involved a lot of kinky things that I had wanted to try, or had only done a few times. She said she wanted to meet my needs, even if we did not get back together. She said we could have as many threesomes as I wanted from now on, or we could be open on my side only, and she would even find partners for us. She was trying very hard to turn me on, and I stayed silent until she asked who I wanted to have a threesome with. For some reason I mentioned the name of her coworker, who is 5 years younger than Kate and a total knockout. This surprised her, but she was in too deep and asked me what I wanted to do with her. I went into detail about a pretty hardcore scenario, and Kate was encouraging me, until I said that she would just be watching. This again caught her off guard, but she went along with it. Later on, I realized that I only said all of this as a petty attempt to hurt Kate, which I don't feel good about. She was obviously convinced that her plan was working, so she pulled up her dress and got into my favorite position, up into my position, begging me to have sex with her. I'll admit that for a few seconds my body reacted, even though my head was not in the game. Everything suddenly came into focus and the content of her email came flooding into my head. I can't explain why, but I started to laugh. Not just a chuckle, but a full-on belly laugh. She looked hurt and moved away, then started to cry. I told her it was time for her to go, and she left quickly, probably due to the embarrassment. I also said she needed to hurry up and get a lawyer because we are getting divorced. The post-nut clarity after she left confirmed that I had dodged a bullet. I have a meeting with my lawyer later this week and want to move forward with the divorce as quickly as possible. Final update. At night, my wife admitted to having a drunken one-night stand last week, and it has turned me into a robot. Thought I would provide a final update on the situation for anyone that is interested. The last few months have been tough, and I have only seen Kate in person a handful of times. After a few weeks of no contact, I decided that we should discuss things with a clearer head. We went for lunch and had a calm, respectful conversation about everything that had happened and what reconciliation might look like. Kate said she would do anything to get things back on track, and I believe her, but didn't commit to anything. After that, Kate asked me to go with her to see her therapist, who is also experienced in dealing with married couples. I thought about it for a few days before agreeing. The session was tough with a lot of tears, but I didn't get a straight answer on why Kate had decided to cheat. The therapist was surprisingly fair to both of us and was not judgmental. We again discussed reconciliation, but I told her that I thought it was best to proceed with the divorce. Last week I drove up to her parents' house to drop off some tools I had borrowed from her dad. We had arranged for Kate to be there, and for her parents to go out for a few hours to give us a chance to talk. I spoke with her parents alone, who were heartbroken, which was hard, but they were both very supportive. During the conversation with Kate, I told her clearly that I had given it a lot of thought, but I wanted to move ahead with the divorce. It came down to the fact that, in my view, we would never get back to where we were, and I realistically can't see myself ever getting over the betrayal. Even if we could regain the trust, it could take a decade of hard work, and that is too big of a risk for me. Kate finally accepted this, and we had calm discussion about how we would divide assets, sell the house, etc., and wrote an email to our respective lawyers. We left each other on good terms. The divorce should be finalized by the end of the year, and the house will be put up for sale soon. In the meantime, we will go no contact and agreed not to start dating until everything is finalized. I have had a few casual hookups, and it feels strange to be going back to being single after all this time. I have been hitting the gym, spending a lot of time with friends and family, and getting back into my hobbies. I'm optimistic about the future, and although I'm still devastated by the loss of my marriage, I feel that this has made me grow as a person. Thanks to those of you who have offered advice and support. Now, for the next story. My fiancé assaulted his best friend, as forever on his bachelor party. My female 28 finance. Male 28. Alex has a biff Danny 28. Since they were 4. She's not like the usual Reddit best friend. Say forever. She's a lovely sweet person who has never crossed boundaries with Alex or their 2 other friends Marcus and Daniel. The 4 are very close. Danny is gay and always was. She is very much a woman but likes to dress in jeans and t-shirts, and not in any feminine clothing. She is lean, tall, has short hair, and is just one of the boys in a lot of ways. This weekend was Alex's bachelor party. All 4 plus 2 other of Alex's friends went along. It was to a coastal town that's well known for hosting bachelor and bachelorette parties, but there's no strip club or anything. They stayed in a BB and have scuba diving and kayaking planned. First night went okay, dinner, restaurant, and nightclub and home. Last night was the issue. They did the nightclub and headed back to the house. Marcus and Daniel, who are both single, brought back 2 girls from the nightclub and got busy in their bedrooms. The rest were drinking in the living room, but things got a bit loud, and the 2 friends started complaining that they didn't get to go to a strip club and never got to see an ass. They were blaming their wives and calling them names. Danny told them to shush as it was ruining the mood, and they both thought it would be funny if they saw Danny's body naked to make up for it. The thing is, Alex joined in and they stripped her. She was screaming loudly and Marcus and Daniel came running and rescued Danny and put her in the bedroom with the girls and had a fight with the 3 men. Daniel doesn't drink due to a chronic medical condition and the medication he is on, so they packed up and took Danny and the 2 girls and left the other 3. Danny was hysterical and Marcus wanted her to go to the police, but she wouldn't. She was afraid to go home, so they ended up dropping the girls off and taking Danny to her parents, which was an hour away. Marcus was at my door at 7 a.m. this morning, and he told me what happened, that if he ever sees Alex again, he's afraid of how things could go. He told me that if he can convince Danny to press charges, he will. Then he left. Alex returned about 3 this afternoon. He was acting normally until I told him Marcus has visited. He was very nervous and tried to play down what happened as a joke that got out of hand. I'm devastated. I heard him out, but he knew I wasn't accepting what he was saying. I told him Danny may be going to the police, and he got very panicked and pale. He said she had him blocked and he wanted to go talk to her. I told him she wasn't at her place as she was too afraid he or his buddies would turn up there. I asked him to leave and he didn't want to go, but I insisted. He was crying, saying it was a prank that got out of hand. I heard him out only as a courtesy to our 2-year relationship, but I'm done. I don't know this man. I don't know if I should reach out to Danny or just do nothing. Marcus and I have been in constant contact, and he agrees that I have no option but to end things. I don't know where to start with canceling everything as the wedding was in 5 weeks. But it seems trivial compared to what Danny is going through right now. Marcus is convinced that Danny is going to the police after talking to her parents, so I think Alex is in trouble. I can't support him on this. Maybe I'm wrong, as he was drunk and probably had taken other things, but this was his friend from age front. How he did this to her. I've not blocked Alex, but I've not replied or picked up any of his calls. Comments. 1. He knew I would dump him for cheating, so he took everything he could get his hands on. 2. X's letters shouldn't go to the trash, it should go to Danny's lawyers. Update 1. It's been a terrible day. I can't reach out to my friends yet as I'm ashamed. I did tell my parents and my brother, and they have been wonderful. My brother brought his friend with him when he came to stay, and today both of them packed up every bit of my ex's stuff and took it to his parents' house. X was there and just asked if that meant I was finished with him, and my brother said yes. And did he really expect any other reaction? His father intervened and told X not to say anything more. He told my brother to tell me to contact him on canceling the wedding. I'm not contacting his father ever. My parents are handling canceling the wedding, and my father got into my cousin, who is a lawyer, and he is going to help and advise me as needed. I have to disentangle myself from X on Lisa's bank account savings and such, although my brother made me transfer all of my money from joint account savings and daily accounts to my own account. It's a mess. I tried to ring Danny, but she isn't up for speaking to anyone, so I just text her that I was there for her and that I had broken up with Alex. She hasn't replied and I don't expect she will. She's in a bad way apparently. Daniel spent 3 hours with me today. There's a lot going on, but I'm afraid to say too much for fear of damaging any court case. Just to say there are 2 videos of the incident. One by Jeb, one of the 2 friends. A lot of it is chaotic, but the last part is clear and telling apparently. The owners of the rental house apparently have gotten involved and have footage, but I can't say more. When Marcus left me, he went to both those guys' wives and told them what happened. Jeb's wife has been very helpful apparently, and she is split from him. The other guy's wife too has left him. Things are going how most of you want them to go, that's all I will say. Well, I will add it was worse than what Marcus shared. Daniel told me that before Donnie found her style she had long hair and dressed feminine. And was stunningly beautiful. And all three of them were in love with her, as teens. Alex took her rejection very personally apparently, and Daniel says, he was angry and bitter for a couple of years, but hid it from her. The thought he had gotten over it. But Daniel feels this smacks of revenge against her. Scary if this is true. I have and continue to receive hundreds of texts from Alex. He told me his father told him to stop texting me, but he can't. I haven't replied or blocked based on advice. This is very hard and I don't know what way all this is going to end up. Sorry about any mistakes and typos, I'm not doing well. If there's more I will post again if I'm able. Update 2. ET2. I got a call from Danny. Daniel has been ever present, and I'm guessing it was because he knew she was going to call. There's a lot more to the story. The first night was normal as I said, but in the Saturday Alex, Jeb and their friend decided not to go scuba diving with Danny, Daniel and Marcus. Donnie was feeling very hungover and gave up after an hour and went back to the Airbnb. She walked into the living room to find all three guys engaging in sexual acts with two women. Jeb shouted at her to get out as this was costing them a fortune. The women were escorts. She left and went back to the boat, and only told Marcus what she saw. When they all went back later, Alex told her to not tell me as it was just his last bit of freedom. She told him she was disgusted with him, and that he wasn't free. She told him she would have to think about what to do. Marcus convinced her to stay another night as he and Daniel had met the two girls the night before, and were seeing them again that night, and if Danny wanted to leave then Daniel would have to take her as he was her ride. And there wasn't public transport in the tiny town. So Alex cheated as did the other two. Marcus told their wives that morning but not me. He was going to do it in stages as he knew I was in shock. The actual assault went further than Marcus told me also, and while Alex hadn't actually done anything beyond pulling off her clothes, unlike the other two, he stood by and watched and did nothing to help her. She said she thought he had taken shrooms earlier but couldn't be sure. Marcus and Daniel did rescue her, but things had already escalated. She went to the police immediately she got to her parents. The Airbnb owners had also gone independently when they saw the footage. All three men are facing the consequences of their actions. Danny told me she was sorry she didn't leave tell me immediately like she wanted to do. She is very distraught still. I didn't want to make things worse for her. I don't think I am needed for any legal proceedings, so I finally blocked Alex and his parents. The wedding is cancelled. And I'm just starting to disentangle myself from Alex on bank accounts and such. Here's my issue. I'm feeling very angry towards Marcus. It feels like he didn't really care about me. He stopped Donnie from telling me so he could continue to shack up with the girl he met. He apparently feels guilty because if they had left Danny would not have been attacked. He didn't do me the courtesy of telling me that Alex cheated that morning like he did with the other two wives. It's not like he was sparing my feelings, because my ex assaulting another woman was a pretty damn bad thing to hear. He didn't tell me the full extent of the attack. Danny is still unsure if Alex wasn't just waiting his turn, or all he was going to do was watch. I should have been told that ASAP. And not from Danny because the conversation was incredibly difficult for her. Daniel didn't know about the escorts at all, and didn't know Marcus hasn't shared the full story of what they saw when they burst in. Daniel has been my rock. I need some perspective here. Is it okay to be angry at Marcus? Is it misplaced anger? I'm pretty angry at Alex though, and that's all I feel towards him. Can anyone give me a different perspective I'm missing? Marcus and I had been in constant contact. He's already back at work so it was messages, texts, and occasional calls. He actually visited last night but I didn't open the door to him. Daniel is saying whatever I feel right now is okay. But I think he's just placating me. I don't know who to trust anymore. I don't have to have any more contact with Alex and think the case will move along without me. I'm thinking of telling Daniel that I need a break from him, and Marcus and that group of friends. Donnie and I have said we will stay in touch but I can't see us being very close. My best friend who I finally confided in thinks I should just step away from them all now for good, and try to move forward. My parents agree and think it's necessary for healing. My brother thinks Daniel has been nothing but great, and I shouldn't cut him off. But they all seem to be a package deal, but without Alex now obviously. So I think it's probably all or nothing. What should I do? I don't want to be ungrateful but a clean break feels right. New update, update 3. First of all, Danny and I have bonded. She and I talk every day and message constantly. I didn't expect that but it's truly wonderful. She says she needs a good straight friend right now. Joke, and honestly she is a great person, and has been a huge support to me despite what she has been going through. I told her I posted here as I felt guilty as to tell my story I had to tell hers. She was okay with it. She is thinking of waiving her right to anonymity when the trial comes as she wants everyone to know she was raped and by who. Donnie has quit her job, moved to her parents full-time, and is in therapy. She's just about okay. Surviving still rather than living but she is so strong and amazing. Justice moves slowly here, so there isn't too much of an update on the legal process. Marcus was told, however, he would not face charges for assault for attacking the two actively attacking Danny. I went back to work and it was awful. I work for a tiny startup. Oscar, who works there, is friendly with Marcus and my brother. We are all into martial arts and attend the same dojo. So I'm getting a lot pity. I'd have been okay with sympathy or empathy, but being pitied sucks. Still, it's better than being home all day doing nothing. Daniel gave me space as I asked, and he is truly a good guy. There is nothing romantic there at all though. I'm not in a fit state for anything like that, and won't be for a very, very long time, and he is just a good guy. No ulterior motives. We text a bit, and he is in a lot of contact with Danny. I got a letter in the mail from Alex. Said he held out hope while I hadn't blocked him, but once I did he was distraught. He told me he doesn't want to freak me out by turning up in person, and I know that wouldn't look good for him anyway, but he just wanted to tell his side of the story. He said he was pressured into doing stuff with the escorts, and he only got a buy. The other two were really pressuring him to do more, but he didn't, and says he regrets even doing that. He admits he was angry at Donnie, because she told him he either told me about the cheating, or she would, but he knew he was totally in the wrong. He knew I would dump him for cheating, so he took everything he could get his hands on. He's not even sure what he took, and while he remembers pulling off Danny's shoes, he doesn't remember anything else. So he was just peered, pressured and drunk, and drugged up, and he did nothing wrong at all basically. I was just disgusted to read this. His total lack of accountability is just sickening. I'm not responding to him ever. Any future mail goes unopened into the trash. I'm in therapy, but it's early days, and I'm not seeing progress yet. That leaves me with Marcus. He knows I've been angry with him, and he is desperate to talk it out. I probably feel too much anger towards him, but find it hard not to. He is still feeling very guilty over making Danny stay. I don't understand why I feel so angry towards him. It's not on the level of anger I feel towards Alex, by any means, but I'm still hesitant to talk to him. I think he made mistakes, but in my heart I know he was dealing with a lot that morning. But I just wouldn't have been there when Alex got home, if I had known the truth. I feel Marcus should have told me everything, as I was the one who had to face Alex alone. I know I should hear him out, but I'm finding it very hard. How can I get past this? I want to clear the air with him, even if we are never friends, and me cutting him out is really having a terrible effect on him. I know he rescued Danny, and has been constantly checking up on her. I know he can be a good guy, but part of me feels he wasn't all good that weekend. I don't know. I haven't touched this in therapy, as we are just starting and are talking about Alex. I need advice on how to deal with this. I wanted to give it some time, but Marcus' mental health is pretty poor, and maybe by not meeting him I am just making him worse. How can I find it in me to just bite the bullet and hear him out? Why am I so angry with him? How can I move past this? I don't want to be angry at him. I'm so exhausted from being angry at him, and at Alex, and I want it to stop, at least towards Marcus, but it won't. Help. I'm visiting Danny for the weekend that should have been my wedding. We are going to have a Lootars marathon, and her mother is making a cheesecake. My own family have been wonderful in every way, but Danny is truly why I'm still standing. Now, for the next story. My fiancé of 5 years just requested we open the relationship, and that request sent me spiraling. I, 28 female, and my fiancé John, 28 male, have been together for, as the title says, about 5 years. To understand the dilemma, I need to give you some background. We both came from very religious backgrounds, though it affected both of us very differently. John became a problem child, running away, causing problems, and eventually finding a crowd his parents would not approve of. Most of the members of this group were a part of the legged smoke pot, engaged in protests, and were either atheists or practiced different religion. Although some of the members since have left, this crowd became his current friend group. I won't go into details about each and every one of them, but the main ringleaders are Alex, 35 B, and Avery, 33 M. From what I understand, they collected damaged people, as John jokingly said one day, and let them couch surf when things got rough. Alex is some sort of a Nape baby, and Avery works in IT, or something like that. John met them when he was 15. At first I thought they seemed very cool and couldn't wait to meet them, since John equated their relationship to that of a child and a parent, so clearly very important people in his life. But when I finally met them, when we were 21, and in college and home for the summer break, the meeting left me a bit disillusioned. Alex was catty and had snide remarks since I wasn't legged or anything, at most bi-curious, and Avery treated me like a child. But John said they always need to break new people in. So I tried to think positive and did my best to impress them with what I was studying, and what my plans for the future are, both regarding me personally and my relationship. But the more I talked, the more they seemed to disapprove of me. Despite the strange meeting, John seemed ecstatic to see them again, and gushed about how much they liked me. So I kept my mouth shut, and just nodded along. Now, to understand a beeper on who Alex and Avery are, in the town they live in, They're something like local celebrities. Very spiritual, their home is full of souvenirs they accumulated over all their travels. Are also married. But their definition of marriage is very different from the traditional one, apparently. They went to some tropical state, and took some hallucinogens together. And in their state, they proclaimed everlasting love for one another. Quite a wild concept for someone like me. But I learned to be more open-minded since I left for college. That being said, they also said that they can see auras. Whatever that is, and apparently love my fiancés. I don't know what they think of mine. But it probably isn't much. Which brings us to the topic I came here with. Last week after we got home from work, John sat me down and asked me what I think about being in a polygamous relationship. He said he loves me so much more than is possible, and doesn't know what to do with the rest of it, thinking that it's fair to forgive it to someone else. I, on the other hand, don't have a limit on how much I can love him, so I said no. And that was that. However, the question has been plaguing my mind ever since. If you knew John just a fraction, you'd know he researches about things long before he actually commits to anything. Any lifestyle, or relationship changes, whatever. This makes me think that he has already thought about it for a while, and that he also consulted Alex and or Avery about this. I don't want to villainize them, but I know, for a fact, they're not in a monogamous relationship, and they clearly don't like me as the rest of their little group. Again, I don't want to point fingers, and I won't ask John to show me his messages with him, unless I have solid proof that isn't just a gut feeling. But I just have this horrible feeling that they, somehow, pulled in John. There's no way he just thought about it suddenly on his own. 5 years of relationship, and the idea of non-monogamy was never brought up. And now suddenly, just as we're about to be married, he brings this up? I don't buy it one bit. But I can't just go ahead and confront them now, can I? I just don't know what to do. I feel stuck. At home I pretend everything is fine, since my group of close friends told me that I'm just overthinking. And I believed it for a while. But whenever I look at John, all I can think of is, he thinks there's a cap on how much he can love me, and he wants to love someone else. I want to deal with this, but I don't know how. If I bring it up with John, he'll just brush it off as well. Or he'll think I'm cheating or don't trust his friends. I worked hard to get their approval, and I know for a fact John shares everything with him. He wouldn't keep this for himself. I just hope that someone here can give me pointers on how to proceed. Thanks. Comments. Comment 1. Someone suddenly asking to open the relationship is like finding out your house was previously occupied by a serial killer in a horror movie. It doesn't bode. Also, the description of Avery and Alex gave me cult leader vibes. Comment 2. John sounds like hard work. He honestly just isn't worth it. He should find someone better. Update. Me and John came from similar backgrounds. But my family was a bit less strict, allowing me to go to college since I had great grades. The plan for me was to move back after getting a degree, finding a job, a husband, and living the traditional life, which obviously didn't happen because I met John, who literally changed the trajectory of my life. After a year I switched from my first major to one I liked more, and it's been a while since I contacted my parents. They didn't approve, of course, but with John's help, I didn't give in to their demands to come back. Now they know I'm getting married and are invited, but the last time we spoke was about 2 months ago. John has completely no contact with his parents since 18. I didn't talk about the friend group in more detail at first since I didn't think they were that important. But they do like me. At first they were obviously a bit unsure since to them I was a cashed white passing woman, but they warm up to me and I'm proud to call them my friends. The only people who didn't fully accept me are Avery and Alex. And since me and John got together officially, they tend to call me the wife in this strange, almost derogatory manner. It's not an important detail, but it gets on my nerves. Lastly, John is aware that opening up the relationship would lead to me being intimate, physically or emotionally, with other people. But he said it's a great chance for me to explore my bi side, though I haven't expressed the desire to really be with a woman in a committed relationship of that magnitude. On to what happened. I shot a message to John 2 days ago that we need to talk. He works from home, I don't, so as soon as I got home, we sat down to have an in-depth conversation about his proposal. I think he knew what it's going to be about, and I had the feeling he seemed almost guilty. But I ignored that, and basically word vomited everything that's been on my mind. This is embarrassing because I wrote down most of what the comments advised and was prepared to have a mature discussion. But by the end of my easily 15-minute rant, I was in tears and he had to hold me, otherwise I'd crumble completely. The gist of what I said is that I'm hurt that he wants to fuck other people. And that he doesn't care that I'd fuck other people too. That he believes there's a limit to how much he can love me. And that I can't see where this all came from. That he just sprung this on me out of nowhere just a few months before we're to be wed. We tried to have a mature discussion. Yes, but by the end he was frustrated. He did apologize for making me feel less than. but said that my outlook on an open relationship is selfish. What it all boiled down to was that he feels he didn't have enough time to find himself before he committed to me. Which is bullshit, because he didn't show any signs of wanting more than I could offer. We were very happy throughout the 5 years. I really believed I met my soulmate. I realized that, since we were engaged, he seemed to talk more to his friend group, and by extension to Avery and Alex. Again, I don't want to paint them as these cartoonish villains. They're really interesting and all. But now I want nothing more than to scratch those self-absorbed, smug smiles off their faces. In the end, I demanded to see his phone, and he was shocked. We had a rule that we can see each other's phones, but we don't share passwords or anything since relationship is built on trust, and neither wanted to be a prison guard in the relationship. Nevertheless, he unlocked and handed over his phone, and I searched his messages, even deleted ones, and found nothing out of the ordinary. Then I checked the call log, and guess fucking what? Hours-long calls to and from either Avery or Alex. I was fuming, and asked him what the hell does he need to discuss with them this long. And mind you, these dated months back. John eventually caved in and admitted it was them who brought up the idea of open relationship. But they also talked about everything else since they're such a role models. John admitted that he started getting cold feet a while ago and needed a safe place to discuss this. I guess I, his wife-to-be, am not safe. Please make it make sense. Why even marry me then? He promised we'd go to a couples counselor and fix all of this. His issues with marriage, the open relationship thing, the whole 9 yards. And that he'd book an emergency session with his therapist, that he loves me and wants nothing but to be with me. It was late, so we went to bed. Despite how messy this all sounds, I was a bit more reassured by this. I genuinely love him, even if my post doesn't reflect that very well. Though many people said to just leave. I want that to be the last resort. I was willing to jump through hoops to make this work. But guess who's the idiot? This morning I woke up to an empty apartment, and a message on my phone from John, saying that he needs a few days to think this all over and needs space. He didn't say where he was going or when he'd come back. I called and messaged everyone I know. But no one can tell me where John is. I told him that he either comes back home in 24 hours, or this is over. As you can imagine, I'm a wreck. I took the rest of the week off, and between crying sessions and staring blankly into the wall, I obsessively checked my messages, in hopes of someone telling me where John is. To be honest, if he's willing to put me through this, I'm not sure I want to be with him. How can you do this to someone you love? Now, for the next story. Am I the idiot for ruining an engagement by revealing that I was raped by him 10 years ago? I, female 27, had a childhood friend, Angie, female 27, who was as close as a real sister. We spent entire weekends at each other's place, celebrated family events, etc. From 6YO till 18YO. I'll even lived at her place in 2nd grade while my parents went to a nasty divorce. I learned to speak some Russian, as she is Russian, and she learned to speak some Spanish. Needless to say, her older brother and little sister were like a family to me. During our teenage years she had her 2 male best friends. One whom she started dating, and another one, Nico, now 29, who was Russian as well, whom I started dating at 17. Growing up I had issues with a heart condition. I won't bore you with the details, but I had to take a lot of meds, but got healthier starting from 16. Then one didn't have to take them daily, but only when my heart rate became irregular. But then immediately, as it would become extremely painful, my heart would cramp, I would start to hyperventilate. All my friends knew this, Nico included, and that I would black out if my meds got taken with alcohol. I didn't smoke much or drink much growing up as a result, since I was worried about my health and only did drink at home or in a safe setting. Legal drinking age is 16 here, and I only drank wine or beer if at all. I had my first time with Nico at 17, and when my parents stayed at a retreat 2 weeks later he come over to have a date night. I did drink 1 glass of wine, but starting having health issues later resulting in me taking my meds and being unconscious. I was a bit sore the next morning but didn't think much about it. 2 weeks later I'm informing Nico that Ellen laid on my period and he starts to panic, confessing he had sex with me while I was unconscious. We had it before so he didn't think much about it. Apparently he didn't have a condom, but since I was on the pill he figured it was all right. And he also didn't come in me, but in a tissue. I felt violated and disgusted by myself. I didn't know how to describe this and only told Angie about it. I was an utter mess for a few years and wasn't able to have sex again until 2 years later. I didn't remember any of it, but was too ashamed to go to my mom or anybody else. I didn't think of it as rape back then. I was too young to really understand what and how I was violated, and Angie told me it's all right. I should break up if I feel bad about it. But we were in a relationship, and did have sex before. I broke up with him the following day, and apparently he cried about his broken heart to her. As Nico and Angie were close and hanging out together a lot, they started dating a few months afterwards and I had to see him every time when visiting her. I told her I'm not able to see him. But she didn't understand where I'm coming from. The contact stopped and we haven't texted or seen each other in years. I still followed her and her family and saw that her brother is expecting his first child. As I was extremely close with her family, I just commented on the Insta post expressing my gratitude when he reached out to me. I missed his wedding, but he wanted to ask if I would be interested in joining the baby shower, as it's been years and we've been extremely close before. He told me I was like a third little sister. I just asked if Nico will be attending as well, as Angie and him have been dating for 9 years now, and he said yes. I didn't elaborate much but just expressed that I'll send a small present if he can give me his current address, but won't be attending. He kept on pestering me what exactly happened all those years ago and why I'm not in their lives anymore. Angie told her family I'm not able to see her with an ex of mine, but her brother thought there's more behind it. This is when I think I could be the asshole. I told him the truth about what happened back then, and while I didn't know it at 17, I know that this was rape, and I named it as such. I didn't receive any message back from him, but a few days later Angie reached out to me. Furious. Nico had planned to propose during the baby shower, but Angie's brother is against it now, having learnt why I stopped the contact. She loves Nico and will stay with him, but by doing so, her brother said she is no longer a part of his life, as he doesn't want his little baby girl in the same family as a rapist. Since then I've been getting messages from old high school acquaintances, telling me I should have ignored it, and not told any. Since I didn't speak up back, then I lost the right to do so now, and am a horrible person for ruining somebody's life over some stuff he did 10 years ago, when he himself was a child as well. Comments. Comment 1. Do people like that family conveniently forget that they asked OP why she wasn't attending? She didn't just spring it unprompted. Comment 2. Not sure why Angie is getting a free ride from the family. She's not just supporting him, she knew about the rape and used the fallout to pursue him. Update. My choices on speaking up made me realize how insecure I was on what I am allowed to do, and how much I was trying to make it right to other people besides myself. This especially included Nico and Angie. All of you are right. If Nico had changed, he would have apologized, reached out or tried to make amends in some way, either when word got to him from his brother-in-law, or at some earlier point in his life. My former best friend Angie should have been able to feel some sort of compassion, if she had any respect for me as a human being, or the time we spend together. Her reactions showed that I shouldn't hesitate on my actions. I went to therapy from 21 onwards, and thought I moved on from the rape as best as I could. But I realized how ashamed I still am almost 10 years later, about an incident that wasn't my fault at all. I was ashamed to speak up back then and afraid that people around me would look differently at me. And somehow I still felt bad about speaking up today, so I'm trying to own what happened to me now, and not apologize for other people's behaviors, especially as they don't even show me respect. What happened since then? I archived every nasty message I got on WhatsApp so I wouldn't have to read them, but would have the proof if needed at a later point. Angie's mom called me the following day of the incident, crying. I shouldn't have answered the phone, but during the 10 years of friendship I saw her as an aunt, almost a second mom. She always joked that while her children would run around the house doing whatever, I would always take the time to drink a tea and talk with her, showing her more love and time than her actual children. While she said she's sorry for what has been and for what I went through as a child, she couldn't believe that I would ruin Angie's happiness over something like that. With Angie's brother refusing to have Nico as part of the family and Angie standing by Nico's side, it's divided their family, and she is heartbroken. She has grown to love Nico like family as well, and has known him for nothing more than a considerate young man who she knows will make her daughter happy. It wasn't nasty names or angry talk. Just a heartbroken mother who faked to acknowledge my pain and saw the fault in me. Angie's mom tried to get me to apologize or to take it back, but I refused as I don't see the fault in me. With everything that has happened, I believe that Nico hasn't changed, and is just hiding it better somehow. He can see how people are standing by him and supporting his behavior, so he won't have to change. And that is something I didn't want to indulge. Angie's mom not even one used the word rape, and I tried to correct her every time she talked about it, trying to name it for her to understand better, but she would just start sobbing more and it didn't make sense for us to continue to talk. Angie's mom used to be in contact with mine for some time, and she reached out to her after our talk. I was afraid that my mom would find out, since she's from a more conservative background. We had a long talk and I didn't get to see her, physically yet, but she apologized for not being there for me or not making me feel like I can talk to her. I tried to calm her as best as I could, but when she asked me if my current partner knows I was used like that, I got angry. She was scared my partner would leave me if he found out, implying it was something that made me less precious or appealing. When she asked me to keep it a secret from our family abroad and in our country, I hung up. She was acting exactly the way I was afraid she would, as if it's something shameful. It was especially hard as I am trying my best to move away from the feeling of shame. She has since apologized, but it's clear that her view of me has changed. I don't yet know how to deal with it, but that's something to worry about in the next few weeks. As some of you suggested, I wrote Angie's brother, Sven, again and apologized for the mess, but I'm glad that it is out in the open and how proud I am that he's defending his family. I asked if his old email is still working as I would just send a gift card. He didn't respond, but I got a message from his wife 2 days ago. She thanked me for speaking up and informing them about Nico. There were apparently had a few moments that made her uncomfortable, some jokes Nico made, and in retrospective she can see why. Sven apparently informed her the moment he got my initial text, and both of them have since seen Angie but not Nico. She refuses to be in the same room or house as him, and same goes to their unborn daughter. Sven and Angie's mom has been at their place multiple times to beg to forgive Nico, and Sven caved a little. Angie and Nico will get married. Sven will attend but his wife will not. He is allowed in the family but not in contact with either Sven's wife or daughter. Those restrictions are not for Angie. Sven was suffering trying to ease his mother's worries, and is not able to take a stand and cut them out completely. This is a compromise they made without his wife's approval, and she told me she's trying her best to cut them out of their life indefinitely. She wanted to move back, closer to her family as well, and thinks this is a perfect opportunity, but isn't sure if she can follow through. His wife told me she's terribly sorry for all the issues that came my way, and it has been a lot trying to handle the situation on their side. Sven knows it's not my fault, but he doesn't want contact. It's hard for him to talk or see my name, because even though he knows I'm not the guilty party, in some way I was the bearer or bad news, and he sees me as the start of all this drama. She told me a few times that neither believe I'm the bad guy. They just are tired with everything, and it's just been extremely hard on them. That's all that has happened so far. I am frustrated about how everything came to be. Everything came to be. It feels like Nico will just continue with his life without having to be remorseful. And to be remorseful. Remorseful. I didn't want him to suffer, but I think some part of me wanted to at least receive some kind of apology for all the suffering I went through afterwards. I'm having to deal with my mother and her changed shameful view on me. And even though I'm happy it's all out, it's extremely hard to stand by my choices. My partner and my best friends both have been my shoulder to cry on during this ordeal. Especially my best friend was enraged for me, and I am extremely grateful to have both by my side. Right now I'm just emotionally drained, but I'm sure it will be better once a few weeks passes. Comments. Comment 1. You spoke up and did the right thing. If others can't handle the truth, that's their problem. Keep focusing on your healing and support. Comment 2. Naya. Unfortunately, it's a tale old as time. The woman is blamed and the rapist gets off without a blemish. Only by speaking the truth over and over will the situation improve, and when the boomers die off. Comment 3. 100% the right thing. What you did may keep Nico from attacking someone else, or may encourage one of his other victims to step up. You never know how much people like you help everyone else. When you stand up and speak out, and are not ashamed of what was not your fault, but will point the finger at the one to shame, you're making the world a better place. I'm sorry for the family Nico misled, and the wife who's foolish enough to stay with him. But it's no longer your business. You did the right thing and it's going to help others. If no one else says it to you, thank you for doing all this. You are amazing. 9 day. Now, for the next story. My wife is addicted to the gym, and it's ruining our marriage. My wife is 30 years old, and she's always worked out and been in shape. But lately I feel like it's becoming excessive. She used to regularly work out at a gym when she was in college. At some point she stopped going to the gym, I think lately just due to her schedule, and preferred to work out at home or go for runs outside. About 18 months ago she announced she was going to get back into the habit of going to the gym. She now had a job where she's able to make more time for it. It started off normal, but slowly became more and more frequent. She signed up for classes on the weekend. Both days she started going to the gym every day. Then it became the morning before work, and then again later in the evening. Every single day. If she's stressed she goes to the gym. Experienced some sort of life crisis. She immediately heads to the gym. We have an argument, runs to the gym. She's 4 months pregnant right now. I'm kind of surprised we even had time to make a kid. I understand that it's safe for her to work out, especially since she was already in the habit of doing it before she got pregnant. But the intensity is not slowing down. If she misses one of her normal gym sessions she becomes so irritable, like a junkie not getting her fix. It's just bizarre. Truly a case of too much of a good thing. Of course she gets upset when I voice that I feel it's becoming an unhealthy obsession, and that I miss spending time with her because she's there so much. She has all of these friends and this whole circle of people there, that she seems to prefer spending time with over me. Why don't we work out together at the gym? The gym is her time, she says. This isn't a case of me feeling insecure because she's in great physical shape, and I'm a fat slob. I work out and am in shape. My job really requires me to stay in shape, so I can't let myself go if I want to. I genuinely feel her gym habits are unhealthy. She's over-exercising for one. There is such a thing. But worse than that, I feel it's becoming a way for her to escape everything else in her life. She never actually fixed anything that goes wrong in her life. She just runs off to the gym to get some sort of mood boost and then that's it. She also never gets anything else done in a practical sense, because how can she when she's at the gym so often? It's to the point where I have to do every chore, and if food is getting made I'm going to have to do it. I don't expect her to do all of those things, but it should at least be a shared effort. People we know have even commented about it to me. They've said things about how she seems different, how she sure is at the gym a lot, and many of her friends and family barely see her anymore. Some have even suggested she's having an affair with somebody there. Please tell me that this doesn't sound normal to you. She insists this is perfectly normal. Comments. Comment 1. I always tell people who come to me venting that they're seeing greener grass elsewhere. Have you faced the struggles of life? With your app or have you even thought what life would be like without your spouse? Comment 2. I can't help it that we fell in love. Says the cheater who started to have feelings for someone else while married and did nothing to change her behaviors. Update 1. She won't let me go to her gym and she refuses to go to mine. Her gym is her place, my gym is my place, and that's just the way it has to be according to her. I'd love to have her come along with me. I've invited her multiple times. She's about 18 weeks pregnant right now. This is our first baby. She worked out like crazy prior to the pregnancy, and she continues to just as hard now. I truly didn't think she was cheating on me. People suggested it in the last thread and I laughed. But you can tell she's at the gym a lot, she's in great shape. So she's obviously going there. I felt really confident about the cheating issue, and when I posted 9 days ago I wasn't even considering cheating. I'm embarrassed to admit that after reading a lot of the comments on my last post, I thought maybe I was being overly confident about her fidelity. She usually always has her phone on her, but she left it in the kitchen counter, and as stupid as I felt, I decided to do a quick swipe through her texts. She had a current text conversation going on with a guy. I recognized the name. The same name of a guy from the gym she mentions a lot. She's friends with a lot of people there. Went to one of their weddings last fall. I wasn't too terribly concerned until I started reading the texts. Never wanted to know what the guy's dick looked like, but I know now. She was only out of the room for literally about a minute or two, so I had to scroll fast. I was furious. I asked her what the fuck that conversation was about. She started yelling at me for looking at her phone. I told her she's acting so weird in the gym obsession was really bothering me, so I just decided to look. And was ashamed that I did. But that's I thought I'd find nothing all. She said it's nothing. It's nothing. Didn't look like nothing to me. She sure seemed pretty interested in this nothing. I wanted to know if she's been fucking him. For how long? She kept saying no. I left the house because I was so furious, but not before I slammed her phone on the ground and shattered it. She was calling me all sorts of names for breaking her phone. She hit me on the back as hard as she could. I left. Went to my brother's house. My brother and sister-in-law were shocked, although my sister-in-law was one of the most vocal ones about my wife's gym obsession, being weird and bringing it up to me constantly. I went home. She was in bed crying. She obviously couldn't call me or anyone else for that matter. She was laying it on thick. I don't know if you'd ever come home. Give me a break. I took her phone to get repaired tonight. She doesn't deserve it, but I still feel like an ass breaking her phone. I still don't know how deep it goes. She won't admit to anything beyond what I saw. Was it sexting bad enough, or more? I'm convinced it was a lot more, but she refuses to hand over her phone and is now trying to act like I'm this terrible monster who is abusing her because I broke her phone. Not my proudest moment, but I honestly wanted to body slam her after she punched me. I have never and would never actually touch her like that. Update 2. At 2. My wife asked me to stay home from work so we could talk. She laid in bed all day yesterday trying to get me to feel sorry for her, but I paid absolutely no attention to her and ended up leaving the house to go to my family's Super Bowl party. I wasn't in the mood to go, but I wasn't going to sit at home with her. It really bothered her that I left. She kept texting me things like, who just leaves like that? When something like this is happening, who is that cold and callous that they just leave to go to a party? I stayed home today to talk to her. She was full of tears. She's so sorry. According to her, she really was going to the gym twice a day because she likes going there. That's where her friends are, makes her feel good. It's fun for her. She met this guy there and he started flirting with her. Everyone likes him. He's one of the most popular guys there. I didn't realize there were popular people at gyms. She admitted that she flirted back but didn't mean anything by it. She didn't reciprocate very much at first, but he gave her butterflies and she just found herself flirting back without thinking. She said it felt like when she had a crush on somebody, when she was in school when she was younger. They started texting. At first it was just friendly and nothing sexual for several months, but she'd feel giddy every time she got a message from him. She was really attracted to him, but told him that she was married and there could never actually be anything between them. According to her, he kept flirting with her anyway and said, sure, we won't cross the line. Until they did cross the line. She said she had tried to resist it for a while. But then one day they kissed. She admitted to enjoying it but also feeling that it was wrong. She must not have felt that bad because she slept with him for the first time later that night. She described it like falling in love with somebody for the first time. All she could think about what him. Is she in love with him? She doesn't know. Is this baby mine? She thinks so, but there's always a small chance it could be his. He always uses a condom so she doesn't think it's his baby, but they were sleeping together at the time she got pregnant. She loves me. She can't help that there's just this huge spark between the two of them. She doesn't know if she loves him. She doesn't know if the baby is mine. She doesn't know why she did this. She doesn't know what she thinks we should do. The nail in the coffin is when she said, you would really leave me if it's not your baby, would you? If she had the balls to ask me that. I told her of course I'm leaving her, and I wouldn't raise another man's child. She seemed shocked. She said, really? With everything we have and all our history, you wouldn't even consider it? She can't be serious. I told her no, I would never consider it. She agreed to get a DNA test. She tearfully agreed, like I'm supposed to feel sorry for her about it. I don't know who this woman is. She was crying the whole time, but not tears of an ashamed or sorry person. They were tears for herself and meant to try to make me feel bad. Feel bad for what? That her heart is apparently so torn. Now, for the next story. Till there's a service called Cater Busters, and that my wife has ran a search on me twice. My wife, 41 female, and I, 45 male, have full access to each other's everything. We use each other's phones. We regularly log into each other's browsers. When we need access to pay a bill, or get a TUFA code from an email. I do all the money stuff. So today I logged into her Google account to get a username and password for one of our credit card accounts I didn't have saved in my browser. When I scrolled to the C's in her Chrome's password manager, I saw a saved on and puke for a website called Cheater Busters. I looked at the login info, then logged in using incognito. I found 2 searches for me. I can't tell when they were ran, and can't tell how the searches were paid for. We've never had any issues with infidelity. She's never shown any sign of doubt about my faithfulness, nor I towards her. I want to bring this up, and I will, but I'm trying to figure out how upset I am about this. On one hand, I can imagine she read an article about how many husbands use Tinder secretly, and just had a weird reaction, and did a search. But on the other, she ran 2 searches. I'm not sure how troubling it is for a spouse to have these kinds of doubts without ever saying, or doing anything that I would notice. Comments. By Shalerpic. Comments 1. So his wife is basically a single mom and he is just a roommate who pays for things? Their dynamic is so odd and confusing. He's basically just there to help with the bills and give her another baby? Doesn't even sleep in the same bed? And that's why she thought he was cheating. Seriously, a situation of their own creation. Comments 2. I was thinking, why would they try for another kid if the wife is overwhelmed? Why is the wife he main one caring for the special needs toddler when they both work from home? Why would she think he was anywhere other than sleeping in the guest room? She is awake and doing the nighttime routine. He likely is well slept. The marketing suggestion makes the most sense. More sense than that story. Update. My wife and I both work from home, and have lunches together Tuesday and Thursday, so I plan to bring this up at lunch. I read all the comments and wow, was blown away at the number of comments adamant she is projecting her own misdeeds through these searches. To all of you who warned me not to fall victim to that mentality, thanks you for saying so, but rest assured it never even entered my mind as a possibility. What I didn't include in my post was that we've been struggling to connect for a while, but that we've acknowledged it and know the root issue. And that is we. and by we I mean mostly my wife, have had our hands completely full with our 2.5-year-old daughter, who has had developmental issues that has forced a lot more attention and care compared to your typical 2.5-year-old. This is where 90% of her mental and physical energy has been the last 3 years, so I know she doesn't have the wherewithal to even entertain the idea of an affair. Add to that she is in full I want another baby mode right now, running hormone screens each morning, timing our sex around her cycle, and this is where the other 10% of her energy has been spent the last 6 months. Now to the update. With how our last 2 to 3 years has been, I expected sometime in this window was when she ran the searches. My wife is the one who does most of the nighttime work, keeping our daughter asleep. And since that's what is happening in what was formerly our marital bed, I have been sleeping in the guest room almost the entire last 2.5 years. As of about 9 p.m. each night, I have a chance to unwind, watch some TV, scroll Reddit, etc., and go to bed whenever I want. What I learned at lunch today was this dynamic has at times triggered an awareness in her that I could honestly be spending my nights doing anything I want, and that she would have no way of knowing. I never thought about it, but yeah, I could actually be spending my nights at someone else's place, and as long as I was home by the time they woke in the morning, I'd never be caught. As for our conversation where I learned this today, I started in jovially. When we sat down with our lunch, I simply said, "So I have a question for you." She was like, "Oh no, what is it?" Realizing whatever I was about to bring up was going to be important, but not something she'd have to be defensive about. "So when's the last time you ran a search to see if I had a Tinder profile on Cheater Buster?" I asked it point blank. She then attempted to say she had no idea what I was talking about. But I plainly called BS and asked her genuinely for us to move past that flight response and be honest. She was embarrassed, more than anything. These thoughts she's had were at their worst the first 6 months of our daughter's life, when we were our most distant, our most volatile, and when I was more of a robot just doing whatever I could to serve a supporting role, doing the things around the house my wife didn't have the time or energy to, like the money stuff, referenced in my first post. The last few months we've found each other as much as we can, taking steps to intentionally spend time together, just the two of us, like our scheduled lunches twice a week, and we went on to have a really great conversation about all of this today. I had no idea those thoughts even went through her head. I was floored by the fact she could envision a way more fun lifestyle for me. At night, going out having a great time hooking up with women all over town, while I have found actual contentment just having a bowl of cereal late at night while watching YouTube golf. LOL. In the end, it made sense how the first year of our daughter life could have put my wife in a weird enough headspace that she could envision me going out and finding a better life. She honestly said, "I wouldn't blame you if you wanted to." So while she was embarrassed she ran those searches a couple of years ago, I let her off the hook, letting her know I could see how her mind could have gone there. The rest of lunch was great, and our day ended with me finding a note on the kitchen counter when I got home from soccer practice, after she and our daughter had already gone to bed. "Leftovers are in the fridge if you dare eat what I tried." Now, for the next story. My husband cannot accept I don't like mustard. Things came to a head yesterday. We've been married 2 years, dating 5. We are both 34. I'm a woman. He's a man, if it matters. I'm not a picky eater. In fact, I'm quite adventurous, and every time I've traveled I've always made it a point to try dishes with unusual, uncommon ingredients to say I've tried them. There are very few foods I won't eat. One of them is mustard, the condiment. I don't like it. I just don't. The taste is very strong and overpowering, and it's an unpleasant taste. I've tried Yellowstone, ground honey, artisan, brown, spicy, you name it. I have tried them all. And I just don't like them. My husband for some reason never understood this. He loves mustard, especially honey mustard. He puts it on all his sandwiches, dips his fries in it. And every time he tries to force me to try it, he'll insist I'll like it this time. I'm a grown-ass woman. I know what I don't like. And I don't like mustard. So I'll say no, and it'll devolve into a mini argument, where he'll call me picky. Well, last night we were on the road home from a weekend trip we took together, and he stopped at a gas station to get us a quick bite. He got a hot dog slathered in mustard. I got one but decided to keep it plain. I don't really love hot dogs to begin with, but I will eat them. While we waited in line he asked what I got on mine. I told him nothing. He actually got furious and grabbed it from me. He marched over to the condiment station and began putting mustard on my hot dog, telling me to grow up and stop being picky. I just walked out and sat in the car. I didn't even want the damn hot dog anymore. My appetite was gone. He came back and began screaming at me for embarrassing him even further. The word divorce was said for the first time ever. I secretly recorded his screaming because I was genuinely afraid I would die, He was driving erratically, swerving and speeding. I'm in a hotel tonight. He ignored me all day at work. And then the calls started around. When he realized I wasn't coming home. Non-stop voicemails and texts. He sent me a screenshot of a Google search for local divorce lawyers. I haven't eaten all day and I've been sobbing in this damn hotel room. I don't want to get divorced and I wish I had just ate the fucking mustard. Anyone, please give me an explanation. Am I in danger? Why would he react this way to a preference of mine? I'm completely broken right now. Comments. I saber vaccinational. Comment 1. He got mad because you embarrassed him? It was a fucking gas station. He should be embarrassed for getting a hot dog at a gas station. Comment 2. This isn't about mustard. It's about control. He can't stand that there's something he likes that you don't, and it bothers him to the point of incoherent screaming and putting your life at risk. Massive red flag. I would not tolerate the type of behavior he's exhibited. Update 1. 1. Regarding when I said no to sex. He respected if I said no to having sex, but he would ask for blowjobs over and over. I used to give in at first until I started dreading doing it. He tried buying all this stuff to make me like it, to make it easier, or whatever. I used to like blowjobs. I don't like giving them to him. But he'll still ask over and over. I started responding with, I said no. Are you going to force me to do it? And he'd get squeamish and offended that I'd implied he would rape or assault me. If I have a support system, no. I've always been a very small circle kind of person, and I lost touch with casual college friends. My friends are his. It makes me feel like a loser, but I don't really have friends of my own. My parents are dead. My dad died when I was a teen and my mom passed recently of heart failure. I have no siblings. I'm financially capable of living on my own, and I could pay for a divorce. I just really didn't want things to be this way. The mustard thing was always just an annoyance to me. I didn't consider it a deal breaker, but obviously it is for him. We have no kids and no equity. Our finances are separate save for one joint account we equally contribute to for bills. We were looking at buying a house. I'm safe. I'm at work and I'm staying in the hotel until further notice. He has continued to text. One message said that he loves me and doesn't want to lose me, but I've forced his hand by refusing to communicate or come home. I haven't answered. I don't know what to say. I forced myself to eat my favorite takeout late last night, but it tasted like cardboard. I stayed up late compiling a list of every time he has shown worrying behavior. I guess the mustard is the tip of the iceberg. Update 2. 2. Sincerely thank you all for your kind words as well as sending me links to resources. He has reverted back and has told me that he never wants to see me again. So I suppose that gives me time to read that book that someone on RA suggested to me. I forget the name. I will admit while I was at work and thinking of the lonely room waiting me after 5. I considered just going home. But I knew what awaited me. I'm too drained to muster up the kind of apology he would be expecting in order for things to go back to normal. I honestly fear that our normal is detrimental to me. I also don't want to apologize. I don't think I did anything wrong, and you all helped validate that. I always felt like I was the one disturbing the peace. He'd get so upset over things that were little to no effort for me to just do or go along with, because I loved him. And somewhere along the way I think I lost myself. I never liked mustard. I never liked golf or camping or red wine. But he loves all of these, and wanted me to love them too. He said he was introducing me to his hobbies so we would have shared interests as a couple. But I have realized that out of all the things I used to like, he has either refused to try or ignored my interest. Our shared interests are just his. God, how do I feel like my own person again? My world broke not 2 days ago, and now I'm drunk at a hotel bar switching between Reddit and researching divorce lawyers. I still don't want a divorce. It's so permanent. I never pictured myself a divorcee. I used to think that every choice I made deliberately. It used to be a point of pride for me. But he's making this choice for me. And it hurts. Update 3. First of all, I took this week off at the encouragement of my employer. I plan to spend it finding a therapist that specializes in domestic abuse and sexual assault, which I've come to realize I am a victim of. I feel completely numb. I'm also looking into a divorce lawyer. Secondly, he found the hotel where I was staying. I guess he followed me from work. He was waiting in the lobby. God, my heart skipped a beat and I realized that I did not miss him at all. I was afraid of making a scene. I need to unlearn that. So I sat with him in the lounge area and talked. I'll summarize it. It's I pointed out the security camera and said if he tried to hurt me, there'd be footage and I would press charges without a second thought. He was completely shocked and said he'd never hurt me. I reminded him how I feared for my life in the car. He ignored me. Ein me. He asked why I wasn't coming home. I was completely blank-faced when I told him, because you're divorcing me. He said he didn't mean it, and was just upset. I said when normal people are upset, they express it in a healthy way. You threatened the end of our marriage. I'm taking you seriously. He got pissed and asked if I was saying he wasn't normal. Honestly, I just wanted the conversation to be done. So I told him if that's really all he heard, then there was no point in talking anymore. I told him I was looking for a lawyer, and he should probably do the same if he hasn't found one. He lashed out and said, all this over one mistake. And I just stared at him. As I made to stand up, he grabbed my wrist hard and I pointed at the camera again. This just made him angrier. He never could handle slights to his ego. I told him if he tried to contact me again beyond sending me his lawyer's details, I'd be calling the police. He let me go. I want to say I was badass and celebrated in my room. I collapsed onto my bed and began sobbing. I was just so sick and angry and sad. He truly doesn't care about me. I've been crying on and off while calling local therapists. God, why is it so hard to find one? The amount of therapists that advertise but turn out to not be accepting new patients is unacceptable. I've looked into victims of VDAS support groups as well. In the span of less than a month, my life is completely changed. And he isn't remorseful at all. He just thinks it's all my fault. Update 4. My STBX does not have my location. Nor are there any trackers on my phone. I am in contact with people and organizations who are helping me. Earlier this week, the calls and texts really ramped up. I was advised to leave him unblocked and simply muted so his messages would come through. I read a few since I was curious. He wanted me at Thanksgiving dinner with his family. He begged me to stop being this way, and what was he supposed to tell his family? Well, Thursday came and went. I had bought a couple of ready meals the night before, so that was my feast. I do want to take a break here to talk about my mom. Since it was only 3 of us every holiday, except the rare times friends would come over, my mom wouldn't make a turkey. She would buy a rotisserie chicken and dress it up with stuffing, etc. She'd make dishes we loved rather than traditional Thanksgiving dishes. My favorite side dish of all time was French fries. My dad loved grilled asparagus with cheese. So we would have a rotisserie chicken with French fries, asparagus and some garlic toast, my mom's favorite. The first time I had real traditional Thanksgiving food at a friend's house, I apparently told my mom loudly I didn't like it, and asked where the fries were. Haha. So this year, instead of my STBX family's Thanksgiving food, I bought asparagus, fries, garlic toast, and a couple of slices of rotisserie chicken. It wasn't half as good as my mother's meal. But when I say I cried eating it, it felt like they were with me that night. I guess my absence at the dinner forced my Stex to tell his family that I was separated from him. So Friday morning I got a phone call from an unfamiliar number. I answered it, thinking maybe it was my lawyer's home phone or another person I was in contact. It was my mother-in-law. She begged me not to hang up on her, so I stayed on the line. She went on about how I was her daughter, she loved me, her son loved me, and how could I leave him over something so minor? He only told his mom about the mustard, and even then it was a watered-down version that made me look like a neurotic control freak, who needed everything my way. According to my mile, he just made a side cup of it for me and asked me to just try it in the car. And I started screaming I'd divorce him. She then started probing about which lawyer I was seeing, and what I had told them. She also reminded me that lying in court was a crime. My lawyer had warned me to not reveal anything we had discussed to his family. It took all my willpower not to say anything. Instead, I hung up and muted her number, too. She hasn't texted or tried to call again. Trust me, I would have loved to send the recording of her son screaming saying he ought to smack me upside the head, calling me a stubborn bitch, that he would divorce me, and that he would run the car off the fucking road if I didn't start acting right. I wanted to scream into the phone that her precious son started this mess, and I was simply doing what he wanted. I have come to realize you don't treat someone you love like the way he has acted. Normal people don't want to have sex with someone who has already said no. Normal people don't keep pushing and obsessing over food preferences. There is something seriously wrong with that man. He texted me last night, Friday, calling me a bitch for making his mother cry. He also said he would come find me and it would take more than a locked door to keep him from getting me and taking me home. I forwarded those to the right people. I know this isn't a happy update, but things are moving along quite nicely. Update 5. By Tate Sizey. I moved. I will not say where, but I have found a new home. My job let me stay on as permanently remote. I can't go into details about my divorce or other current legal proceedings, but I can say I was granted a protective order due to something that happened back in December. Due to the nature of what happened, I was hospitalized for a time. That was what I guess made me realize I wanted to get the fuck out. I traded my car, had my phone checked for tracking apps devices, and changed my number. He cannot contact me or have anyone contact me on his behalf. I am now several hours in state lines away from him and his wretched family. I moved with only 2 suitcases and a duffel of my stuff. I cannot wait to furnish and decorate my new home the way I always wanted it. I'm in therapy and I have a survivor support group I see weekly. I will be okay. I feel like I can finally breathe. Edit, you are all very kind. I've had a lot of people ask what happened that landed me in the hospital, and while I understand my story is entertaining, it was quite traumatic to endure. Respectfully, I won't share that until I'm ready. I appreciate all of the support and I'm both touched and heartbroken by those of you who have shared similar stories in my comments and DMs. I'm simultaneously horrified that others have gone through scammer, relieved that I'm not the only one. Update 6. Hello, it's been a while. I'd sort of forgotten about this account until I saw screenshots of my posts uploaded to Instagram. Some key points. I am still going to therapy, individual counseling, and bi-weekly group meetups for victims of DV. I am absolutely not dating. I saw some comments that said they hoped I found a fairy tale man. That's the last thing I want or need. I strive for independence and self-love before I consider finding a new partner. It'll probably be years before I'm ready. And that's okay. I have discovered a love of cooking and trying new cuisines. I didn't realize how boring my ex's taste was until I escaped him. Slathering mustard on a $2 hot dog does not mean you have superior taste buds. Sorry, I had to get a jab in somehow. Nothing new or dramatic has happened, and that is the way I like it. What matters is, I'm alive, and I'm happy. I didn't realize how little I'd made myself until I was given the space to be. That's all I'm willing to give for my update for now. Peace and love. Haji.